Well, I saw the first part of the Crisis on Infinite Earths films for Tomorrowverse, and it made such an impression on me that I nearly forgot to do a review of it. It wasn't all that. It's not horrible or terrible or anything, but this will make the second attempt at adapting the Crisis on Infinite Earth series on screen. So, of course, the CW did their attempt, which was really terrible. An animated take on it, it would be more spectacular, and in this case it was, because you can do a lot with art and all that, and it doesn't cost as much, at least not in the sense of, stunts and all that sort of thing. Anyway, the approach to it, of how close can you get to the original story, this animated version is closer than the live-action CW attempt, especially since they didn't have access to all the characters and everything. Although, even though she was rather middle-aged and an established character, their Harbinger was much closer in at least the design of her outfit, and it owed more to it than in this story. And also in this story, they reveal Harbinger is actually Supergirl from the Legion of Superheroes movie. Don't know why that's the case. If it's just going to be Supergirl, then it would just be Supergirl recruited by the Monitor to go, gather everybody that the Monitor wanted in order to oppose this onslaught of from the antimatter universe. Although in this version they're going with that there were multiple Monitors. They don't show them, but that's how he describes himself, I believe. And he appears, unless he's keeping that close to the vest, doesn't know why this is happening or who's behind it and all that. Whereas in the original story, his antimatter doppelganger, he knew all along. They had been battling each other for all eternity, really. And it culminated in this takedown of the multiverse by the Anti-Monitor. This first part is basically a Flash story, and it does again take from the original story, but it kind of does it in an ass backwards way. So. The Flash, of course, made the ultimate sacrifice in the original series, issue 8, I believe, following the death of Supergirl, and then the Flash died. But his death was so much more dramatic in the sense that he was by himself, and, but he had to do it in order to spare the universe the destruction that the Anti-Monitor was working on at the time. And he did it, but it cost him his life. And then, of course, the business of him blinking in and out throughout time and whatnot during the series, and even in other comic books, tie-ins at the time, where the Flash would just suddenly appear and you didn't know why until you finally realized it was because of this. So, that's the payoff, and it gets explained. Here, he goes in and out of different universes and points in time and all that. It doesn't have the impact that the original iteration did. But there's just this business of they're trying to come up with a means by which to escape the ultimate destruction that the antimatter wave brings. And another thing they borrowed from the series was to go to the crime syndicate planet, where you had the evil versions of the Justice League, and so Flash encounters them and all that, and all of them go to their deaths against this force, they don't know how to stop it, and it ends up wiping them all out. And they did that in the first issue of the series, and it was to set the stage and show you just how serious a threat this was, where you basically, sure, they're the criminal versions of the Justice League, but essentially they all had the same abilities and whatever, and each one got wiped out and stood no chance whatsoever against this onslaught. And so it sent the point home. And so there's a little bit of that here as well, as they plotted it out for this film. But the Flash didn't witness that in the original series, but here he's the witness of it all, and that he's the main character of this film. So ultimately, with the Monitor, and they put their heads together and come up with these ideas of developing the towers. In the original story, the Monitor, of course, as old as he is, and his vast knowledge and whatnot, he made the towers that stabilized the different Earths in trying to stave off the antimatter wave. And here they're constructing it, but they just don't have the time, and they're running out of time to stop it, and it looks hopeless. And so what does the Flash do? He somehow draws Iris into this, and they speed up so fast that time has slowed down to a snail's pace crawl, so that he has enough time to fix the tower. And apparently this takes decades for him and Iris as they live out their lives working on this tower, and then eventually right up at the end, and then she dies of old age, and he's all very sad, but he continues the work, and finishes the tower, and so it works, and this spares the world from the antimatter wave, and they escape. And this was one of the solutions they did in the series, that the anti-monitor, I mean the actual Monitor, came up with, actually sacrificing himself to achieve it, where they had a pocket dimension where he stored the sort of remaining multiverses in there, stuff like that, whereas here, this is a way they just sort of shuffled things around, and Barry does his sacrifice at the outset here, setting up the tower. And, it works. And then, but the thread is not over. And so you'll have to continue on in, part 2 and all that. Okay, but I don't think that was a good solution to it. It didn't quite have the impact, most notably because they started this Tomorrowverse just kind of like 5 minutes ago. Not really, but it feels like that. It's all relatively new. It's, the iconic characters and everything, but still this version of them haven't really gotten attached to them. And now, oh my goodness, look at the sacrifice he made. Well, yeah, okay. So it doesn't quite work. But, whatever. It is what it is. The obvious thing they could have done, just aesthetically really, or if they had gone full on, it would have been cool, was something that the CW sort of did. Not very well, but, they acknowledged it, of acknowledging the multiverse of DC, and then, of course, the movies did with the Flash film, and that didn't go well. But anyway, the animated thing was to combine as much as possible the styles of the past DC animated versions of their characters. All the way back to the Super Friends, if they wanted to. Could have done something like that. They didn't. There's alternate universe characters come in. There are 2 Supermen there. And in fact, one of them is from a world where he and Wonder Woman have hooked up because Lois has passed away and all that sort of thing. Okay, yeah. But it's not based on any of the previous versions, and they just didn't do it. Maybe they'll, as they come back for the 3rd film, they'll toss in some cameo type thing, but so what? It would have been a cool take on it from their past versions, and having them meet one another, especially since the previous version of animated movies they did were connected and everything, and you could have made a call back to at least those. But, didn't do it. So it's pretty lackluster. It's not terrible. I guess of the ones out of Tomorrowverse that I didn't think was all that great was the Green Lantern one. That one was pretty bad. And this isn't as bad as that. So War World just kind of went nowhere. So still the Justice Society movie is their best. And then there's, of course, Long Halloween was pretty good. But then it's a pretty good faithful adaptation or adaptation of the source material. Not so much here. So it's just sort of okay. But it's supposed to be this big deal, Now, it's only part 1, so there's 2 more parts to come, and we'll see what they do. But some obvious things that I thought they should have done, they just didn't. At least it would have, prettied it up a little. I know you want to, but there again, I was about to say, it says, hey, you shuffle things around and make it a little different so it's a little more surprising or whatnot. And yet, that's not how they approached Long Halloween. It was, for the most part, was much closer to the original story than this is. So, but anyway, there you go. Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, and 2 more to go, and we'll see how that turns out.